Well, hello, chemistry teachers. Welcome to the final video in the training playlist. I wanted to show you guys the new KCPS Science lesson plan template, as well as the completed example lessons here that I've been working on. So up here on the front page of each curriculum map, you'll see the example lesson plans listed here. Each quarter, I've actually written 4 for you guys because each quarter you get an example lesson. So for example, the quarter 1, I've written out a week 1, week 2 example lesson. So if you scroll down, there'll be a reminder down here, hey, there's an example lesson plan for you to use, so it's there as well. I want to start off by showing you guys the blank template. That'll help you understand the structure and organization of the document, and then I'll show you guys the worked example. And a little bit about how my process for creating those lessons. So just starting off, the top part of here is sort of just the standard, what chapter, module, concept am I working on, teacher name, subject, the dates, and the standards that I'm working on for that week, which I just pulled from the curriculum map. So standard stuff up there before you actually get into planning each of the lessons. Each of the lesson has it starts with the objectives. What are the students going to learn today? Again, I like to pull from the curriculum map because it's already in student language. And then I kind of have 5 different activities I'm thinking about for each lesson. 1, my do now. And then I have 3 different activities listed out here. If you ended up needing more, you could just copy and paste and make more. And then the closing assessment. So I've got my beginning and ending, and I have multiple activities in the middle. And that's really why I wanted to create this, was so that way it kind of forces teachers into thinking about multiple activities. Because when students are exposed to, here's the one thing we're doing today, that either drags something out too long and students get bored, or we finish early and we're just going to not utilize the full class time. Which if you give up 30 to 40 minutes of a block schedule time, that's essentially a whole day in normal schedule time. Okay, so as we'll go through this real quick, each of the activities, so the do now, I would then type out what my do now question is or whatever the activity is. What's the cognitive lift? So you can click this down and it's either the teacher's doing the cognitive lift, it's a bit of both, or it's students. None of these are wrong, so it's okay for an activity to be a teacher's doing the cognitive lift. That would be like me giving notes. It's okay if an activity is for students or doing most of the lifting. That would be like an inquiry lab. And mix is great too. There's nothing wrong with any of those. What's wrong is or not great, is if during your lesson all the activities are teacher or all the activities are students, and there's not sort of a changing of who's actually doing the cognitive lift. So just kind of keep that in mind as you kind of select, okay, so as doing the do now, well, that's probably going to be students because the teacher's not really leading that. But as you go through your other activities, who's doing the cognitive lift? Am I doing too much of one person? Do I need to switch up the activity to help out a little bit? That's what that's there for. What's the technology or materials that's required to do this activity? What's the time? And how am I going to transition from one to the other? By the time you finish your lesson, you'd want to count up the time between all of your activities. You should be hitting somewhere between 70 and 80 minutes. And as long as you're planning out multiple activities, that's pretty easy to do. Most of the time that you can see on my example lesson plan, my average would probably be around 20 minutes. Some of the longer activities would be some of my labs. Those might stretch for 30. I have a few at 40 minutes, depending on the lab. But students can stay engaged a lot longer with those. And if you kind of plan to have sort of a break in the middle of the lab to kind of refocus and switch gears, those will work fine being longer. So you'll kind of go through your lesson planning, list it out, describe what you're doing, and then how are you going to close out your lesson with an exit ticket or a question to sort of assess student learning. Do you have any modifications or scaffolding that you need to consider? And then afterwards, do you have any reflections or feedback from teaching the lessons? So that's the kind of the blank template. Let's jump into a completed one so you can kind of see how I've created these for you and my process. So again, I pulled the objective from the curriculum map. Now I've got my do now. I'm actually using the science probe question for this do now, which is actually up here. I really like those. These are good for introducing at the start of the unit, and then after you've taught Unit 1, give that exact same sheet out and see how students have improved based off that. So that's why I wanted to utilize this. And then I jump right into the actual planning. I did want to showcase, so all of the resources that I have listed out, I try to have as a PDF or an image, so that way it's easy for not only you as the teacher to see what I'm doing here, but if I have coaches or admin looking at this document, now it's easy to see as opposed to linking to the actual website. So you'll see most of the links here are to PDFs or images of the actual work, whereas you guys will be going into McGraw-Hill to actually grab the materials and content. But this one is, hey, since this is the first lesson this is actually the first lesson for the year, really, hey, here's this module 2 science notebook. Let's get this out. We're going to do the KWL chart, kind of do the intro stuff, and then when you move into the notes, that science notebook goes with all the notes, and students can engage with the notes while answering questions. So super interactive that way. And you can read through that to kind of learn a bit more. And then then we go into the activities. They're on McGraw-Hill. And then at the end, I've got a Nearpod activity that kind of helps to reestablish what they learned that day. But I do want you to notice that throughout, so here's really what I want to drive home, especially with this first one. We are utilizing something from the curriculum planning map. We're utilizing McGraw-Hill. Here we're using Nearpod. The next day we've got some Gizmo involved, some more Nearpod, back to the McGraw-Hill. So you can kind of see how my lessons are fully integrated with the multiple resources. Students are being exposed to different types of content, and that's going to keep them a lot more engaged. If all you do is stick with McGraw-Hill, or if all you do is stick with study.com, it all starts to blend together. And so I like to integrate everything together, so that way students feel like things are switched up enough they stay engaged. We also have really long class periods, so you're going to see pretty much every day, at least one of my transitions is a brain break. These can be random, so like this one's just a rock, paper, scissors competition. That takes a couple minutes max, and then it's just kind of a break from the learning, and then you get students settled down and move into the next thing. Sometimes my brain breaks are a bit more related to the topic going on for the day. It's just kind of, so like this one, the brain break, the students just did like a presentation. They all created posters. So my brain break is to give each student a Post-it note. Hey, go write a positive comment on one of the posters. And there, the kids get a little break. They get to go view other students' posters and leave a little positive comment. So it's culture building. It's a brain break, and students are kind of looking at the material. So sometimes I incorporate it into what the students have been doing. All right, so kind of thought that all out, and then you have different ways of doing assessments. Sometimes I'll just post a question, or I'll utilize the evaluate lesson. I try to be creative and use different ways of assessing students for each lesson, and then any modifications that students will need. Each of the 4 lesson plans I wrote for you guys, I try to have like a theme or a different idea I was trying to convey. So go ahead and read these reflections down here, where I kind of explain what each lesson plan was kind of trying to showcase there. Okay, that is pretty much it. I hope you guys are seeing how I'm utilizing the different resources that you have available to kind of put and build a lesson. I found that the curriculum app made lesson planning really easy. I hope it does the same for you. So wish you guys luck and have a great year. Bye.